the most reliable target in the world is not the fool who makes noise with bad choices. It is the person who tries too hard to be good. The moment you commit to being fair, kind, ethical, and consistent at all times, you turn yourself into a readable pattern. Your virtues stop being protection and start becoming instructions. A manipulator does not need to guess how you will act. They already know. Your values tell them where to press. Consider how predictability works in real life. If someone always lies, you stay cautious. If someone always cheats, you protect yourself. But if someone always does the right thing, you relax. You assume safety. That assumption is the opening. Predictability is not about weakness of character. It is about rigidity. When your identity locks into a single moral shape, it loses flexibility, and anything rigid can be used as leverage. A person who prides themselves on fairness will always respond to claims of injustice. A person who values kindness will always respond to suffering. A person who sees themselves as responsible will always respond to duty. None of these traits are flaws on their own. The trap forms when these traits become absolute. When you feel compelled to act the same way in every situation, you stop choosing. You start reacting. Manipulation feeds on reaction. Picture a workplace example. There is one employee who always stays late, never complains, and takes responsibility when others fail. They believe this proves integrity. Management notices something else. They see a fixed response. When extra work appears, they know exactly who will accept it. They do not need to threaten or demand. They frame it as the right thing to do. They appeal to fairness, team spirit, or loyalty. The employee says yes before thinking. Over time, this person carries more weight, more stress, and more blame, while others remain untouched. The virtue became a handle. The same pattern appears in relationships. The partner who always forgives becomes the safest person to betray. The friend who always listens becomes the easiest to drain. The family member who never says no becomes the permanent solution to everyone else's chaos. Each time, the manipulator does not force anything. They simply remind the good person who they are supposed to be. The identity does the rest of the work. This is the symmetry of virtue. What you project outward becomes the exact shape of the pressure applied inward. The more consistent the virtue, the cleaner the leverage. Manipulators do not need cruelty when guilt works better. They do not need threats when obligation feels stronger. They do not need lies when your own standards trap you. Guilt is the primary tool here. Guilt only works on people who care. If you do not value goodness, guilt slides off. But if your self-image depends on being moral, guilt becomes a weapon. A manipulator does not accuse you directly. They imply disappointment. They frame your refusal as harm. They ask how you could live with yourself if you say no. The question bypasses logic and goes straight to identity. Notice how often the phrase, "I thought you were better than this," appears in manipulation. It sounds moral, but it functions as control. It threatens your self-concept. It suggests that a single boundary erases years of virtue. For someone who built their worth on being good, this threat feels existential. They comply to protect their image, not because the request makes sense. This leads to the sacrifice lever. People who value moral high ground often practice self-denial. They give up comfort, time, money, or safety to maintain their identity. At first, this feels noble. Over time, it becomes expected. Once sacrifice becomes your brand, others feel entitled to it. The manipulator only needs to frame their demand as a small addition to what you already do. Just this once becomes a repeating sentence. The danger here is not one sacrifice. It is the pattern. Each sacrifice raises the standard for the next one. If you helped before, why not help again? If you endured quietly before, why complain now? Your past goodness becomes evidence against you. Any resistance looks like moral failure. You are no longer allowed to change without punishment. This is where reverse psychology enters. The manipulator does not ask you to be bad. They ask you to stay good. They imply that refusal would make you selfish, unfair, or cruel. In reality, they rely on the fact that you cannot tolerate that image of yourself. You move toward compliance to escape inner discomfort. From the outside, it looks voluntary. Inside, it feels like a trap closing. Predictability also removes negotiation power. If you always act ethically, others stop negotiating with you. They assume your answer before asking. They plan around your compliance. When you finally push back, They react with shock or anger, not because your boundary is wrong, but because it disrupts their mental model. You were supposed to be reliable. You were supposed to be easy. This reliability creates a quiet hierarchy. The good person often ends up carrying moral labor for everyone else. They smooth conflicts. They absorb blame. They repair damage they did not cause. Others outsource their conscience to them. Over time, this creates resentment, but the resentment has nowhere to go. Expressing it feels like betrayal of the very identity that created the situation. There is also a deeper psychological cost. When your worth depends on being good, you lose the freedom to be human. You cannot be tired, you cannot be angry. You cannot be selfish, even when selfishness would protect you. Every emotion gets filtered through a moral test. Am I allowed to feel this? Am I allowed to want this? This constant self-monitoring creates vulnerability. Anyone who understands your standards can steer you by them. This is why manipulators often target ethical people, not reckless ones. Reckless people resist control because they do not care how they look. Ethical people care deeply. That care is the entry point. The manipulator mirrors values, praises virtue, and positions themselves as aligned. Once trust forms, the pressure begins. Each request is framed as reasonable. Each refusal is framed as harm. Think of social movements, communities, or causes. The most devoted members often burn out first. They give more, work harder, and tolerate more abuse because they believe the cause justifies it. Leaders who lack ethics exploit this devotion. They do not need chains. They use ideals. The most predictable person in the room is the one who will always do what is right, even when right gets defined by someone else. The trap deepens when identity and achievement merge. If you've built success on being reliable, ethical, and self-sacrificing, stepping back feels like losing everything. You fear that one boundary will erase your reputation. You fear being seen as inconsistent. This fear locks you into performance. You maintain the role even as it drains you. At this stage, manipulation no longer needs an external manipulator. The system runs itself. You anticipate demands and meet them early. You correct yourself before others do. You enforce standards on yourself that no one else meets. You become predictable, even in silence. This is the final efficiency of the trap. The psychological vulnerability here is subtle but severe. You live in a state of readiness, always prepared to prove your goodness again. You cannot rest in past actions. Goodness becomes a debt that must be paid daily. Any failure feels catastrophic. Anyone who hints at disappointment gains power over you. Over time, trust erodes. You start to suspect that kindness attracts exploitation. You notice patterns, but feel unable to break them. If you stop being good, who are you? If you stop sacrificing, what remains? The role has consumed the self. This is not moral strength, it is moral rigidity. True ethics require choice, not compulsion. The moment goodness becomes automatic, it stops being ethical and starts being mechanical. Ethics without boundaries turn into self-harm. Integrity without flexibility becomes a liability. The ability to say no is not corruption of virtue. It is proof that virtue is still yours. The dark realization is this: reliability invites use, predictability invites control. When others know exactly how you will respond, they no longer see you as a person. They see you as a function, and functions exist to be used. The quiet cost of being too good is not praise or exhaustion. It is vulnerability, a standing exposure to guilt, pressure, and expectation. You live inside a narrow lane built by your past behavior, and the walls get tighter every time you comply. Breaking this trap does not require becoming cruel or dishonest. It requires becoming less readable. It requires boundaries that surprise people. It requires accepting that some will call you selfish when you stop performing. That discomfort is the price of autonomy. If you want more deep analysis like this on power, identity, and psychological traps, like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to The Fictionist.